Hi, welcome to this episode 3 of the Stitching Book Nerd podcast. My name is Dana. I am your host. I am known as Book Nerd on the Cross Stitch Forum and Ravelry and Instagram, which is BOOKKNURD. This is my third episode, so I haven't seen you guys for 2 weeks. Lots of things have happened, crafty-wise and otherwise, so let's get into it. One thing I want to talk about before I get into what I've been working on is that I was thinking about moving my blog from Blogspot or Blogger to WordPress. I don't know if I'll do that. If I do that, that means I can use WordPress's video thing, and then I could post these on iTunes. I haven't decided, but I'm thinking about it, so more on that in the future, possibly. Alright, so let's talk about what I've been stitching on. So, I've been really busy in other parts of my life recently, and so I haven't had a whole lot of time to stitch. So I was really just focusing on one project, and that was the nursery rhymes sampler I'm doing for one of my cousins who's having a baby. Or, no, she had the baby. Can't say that anymore. Who's had a baby, and this is for the baby. Anyway, so I finished all of the cross stitch in this lower corner. It's a big rectangle, the whole pieces, and I've done the bottom corner over here, the bottom left corner, and now this corner, and then part of the middle. And so I finished all the cross stitching, and I've started doing the back stitching. So like these pigs were fully stitched last time, but they hadn't been back stitched yet. So you can really see how the back stitching makes such a big difference in the details. So that's going. So once I get all this back stitched, I'll be halfway done. I'm so excited. I have been working on this thing for so long. I hope to have it done before, in May will be a year since I started it, so I hope to have it done before then. And then the baby will only be like 6 months old, which is not that bad for getting a baby crafty gift. So anyway, so that's coming along. So I'm going to finish the back stitching on this, and then I'll probably move on to work on some other projects, because I have a lot of projects I want to do. But I want to kind of get that done so I don't have to, so I can kind of have that, feel like I accomplished something. So that's all I did stitching-wise. I was going to start the Once Upon a Time Frosted Pumpkins sampler today. Not today, this week, but I didn't have time to. So I have finally got my fabric in and things, which I'll show you later, but I haven't started it yet. And what else have I done? I did some stitching on that band sampler I showed you guys, but not much. And then there was an issue with I had redone the name, and the spacing was off somehow, and I haven't figured out how it's off yet. Because I was focusing on the nursery rhymes, but I'll do that. So hopefully there'll be progress on that to show next time. So that was all stitching, and then, so, what else have I done? I haven't done any spinning yet, again. I really just want some time to sit down with that, and I just don't have it right now, so I will get to it hopefully in the next month or so. Knitting. My knitting world kind of exploded this past 2 weeks, if there is such a thing that could happen. So I was knitting, and I decided that I would see where my gauge was on this wheat scarf that I was knitting, just because some of the projects I'm going to do, the gauge matters. Most of the ones I'm doing right now, it doesn't matter. So for a scarf, it's not like it has a fit for you, so besides like length, so it doesn't really matter if it's a slightly bigger or smaller than they intended in the pattern. But if I was to knit socks or a sweater or something, the gauge needs to be right, otherwise I'm going to knit something thinking it's going to be one size and it's going to be a different size, and I just wanted to see where my gauge was. So I checked my gauge. It was way off. It was way too tight, like way too tight. I probably would have had it gone up like 3 needle, maybe 4 needle sizes. So I was like, okay, I need to figure this out. So I was gonna figure out what needle size change I would have to make to get my gauge right. But then before I did that, I think I mentioned last time, I was thinking about how I wanted to knit. So I have been like doing the English method, which is the slowest, and to me, I know a lot of people do English, and that's fine, it's comfortable, but to me it's the most tedious, because I know that in that like split second I have to take my hand off and wrap the yarn, I'm wasting time, and that drives me nuts. It's the same reason that I started doing two-handed stitching. So when I can, I use a floor stand that I put my stitching in, and I can have one hand on the bottom, one on top, and pass the needle back and forth, which doesn't seem like it's saving me a lot of time, but it just keeps me focused and not. If I have a split second where I'm changing from one step to another that I can start thinking about something, I will get distracted. So anyway, so I decided I need to figure out how I'm going to knit, and I knew it wasn't going to be English. So I started trying continental leather knitting, which is something like continental but in the right hand, and lots of other things. I tried continental different ways, both of those ways different ways. Tried tensioning my yarn different ways. Nothing was really comfortable to me. And then one other method that I had barely heard about, there's a lady who comes to my stitching group at my local stitching store who knits Portuguese style, which has in the past been made more popular by a knitting teacher person called Andrea Wong. And what Portuguese style, she named it Portuguese style, but it's also done in lots of places, is you have the yarn around your neck or around a pin or somewhere, so it goes from tensioned in your right hand through the loop and then back down, and then you just, to loop the yarn around the needle, you use your thumb, so you don't have to take your hand back off the needle, but it's also easier to purl. It's like insanely easy to purl, which is not common in almost any knitting style. So I had tried that before and not really gotten it to work for me because the way that I was, after I wrapped the yarn on the knit stitch and then was going to pull the stitch off the needle, I did it in some weird way and it got all messed up. So I thought I couldn't do that, but then I went back and tried it again because I was feeling kind of hopeless about ever finding a way that I like to knit. And when I finally just sat down and looked at it and watched some videos, it made sense, and I could do it, and I could do it pretty quickly, and I'm getting better at it. And so I think that's probably what I'm going to try to do from now on. It's comfortable for me. I can do it for a long time. And yeah, it just works for me. It is probably the most obscure way of knitting that I could have picked, but that's okay. So anyway, so I did a test. I wanted to see what had happened to my gauge because all those different knitting methods have a different effect on your gauge. Like continental tends to be a little bit looser, leather knitting tends to be tighter, and things like that. So I checked. I knitted up a little swatch of yarn, just of some line, like cheap yarn from Michael's, which I got for this purpose to test things out. And I knitted up a swatch of stockinette to test my gauge, and it all turned out fine. It was almost spot on gauge, so I didn't have to go up or down needle sizes, which is really nice. I don't know if it'll stay that way, if it'll get tighter or looser. As I've been using it in projects, I've noticed it's a little harder for me to be consistent in my gauge on this technique because you have to really watch how, because you control the tension in the yarn a lot more than you do in other ways. So I just kind of have to pay attention to that. But so far it's going really well. So I did that. Let's see. Yeah, so as I continue to do this, I'll keep checking gauge, even on projects where it doesn't really matter, just to see how it's changing, if it's changing, things like that. So I did. So yeah. So in the midst of all this, when I checked my gauge and it was way off that first time, I was kind of disheartened because I couldn't think of another way to. Couldn't really find a way I wanted to knit. So until I landed on Portuguese knitting, I was kind of discouraged because I was like, I really want to knit, but none of these ways are working for me. But then it all worked out. So anyway, but all that took a few days to work itself out, and then since then I just haven't had time to knit, even though I want to so bad because I finally figured out how to do it. But that's okay. I did work on so when the gauge was way off on that wheat scarf, in a moment of, what would you call this? I don't know, passion. I ripped it out and I was like, I'm going to start all over and fix my gauge. So I don't think I really had to do that, but I did. Anyway, I started it back over. So I think last time I was somewhere around like, oh, this is dark, it's hard to see. But I was somewhere like around here. well, I didn't just get from here to here. I started completely over. And so yeah. And so this was all knit Portuguese style. It's a lot looser than my original one was, which it's supposed to be, because like I said, my original one was really tight. And it's going well. Like, I can knit pretty fast doing this. Like, I had my small group from church yesterday. We were doing Bible study, and so I did, I think, from here to like here in about an hour and a half. Not the didn't spend the whole time knitting because I was talking and whatnot. But so it wasn't too bad. Anyway, so I'm really excited to get back into my other knitting projects because I feel like I can, really get into them now, and my gauge is going to be consistent one way or the other, and I can adjust it as needed since I know how I'm going to knit now. So I did that. And I'll show you what I'm using to do Portuguese knitting a little bit later. One other cool thing that happened with that is the lady at my group that showed me what Portuguese knitting was all about, she let me borrow some videos in a book that were by Andrea Wong, who is kind of the main advocate for Portuguese knitting. So that was really nice. Basically, everything you need to do, like yarn overs and slip, all that whatnots, different stitches you do can be done and they make sense, and it's not really that complicated. So I like it. So yay. So there's not a whole lot to show you in terms of works in progress because, as I've mentioned before, I'm an actuary student technically because I don't have accreditation. And to get my accreditation, I have to pass a bazillion exams. I've done 2 so far, or passed 2. I've taken 3, did not pass the last one, but that's okay. I didn't try that hard. Anyway, so I have one coming up in March 13th. And I'm studying for it. I'm back motivated to study, which is good. I really need to pass this exam on the first try, so I can kind of get back on my projected schedule to pass exams. So part of studying for exams is flashcards. So just to show you guys how many flashcards I have to make, I'm going to show you every week, or every time I record, how many more I have. So this is what I have right now. This is for about 3 sections. It's not so bad. My last test, I had a ton of, like, this many flashcards. Well, I don't think this one's going to be quite as bad. I don't think there's as much material to learn, but it's all math problems, really, is all it is. The problems are harder, but there's not as much just stuff I have to know. So anyway, so I have I'm going to measure this in inches as we go to see how many I get and how long it takes me to get them. So I have about half an inch of lessons flashcards right now, so we'll see how many I have next time. Oh, this stuff, very interesting. So that's something I should be focusing on a lot, so keep me honest. I need you guys to help me stay motivated because I'd really rather be stitching all the time, but I'm not. Okay. So what else is going on? So I haven't had time to stitch or work on anything. So that of course means that I have instead decided to start 500 new projects and get all the materials for those because that makes sense. One of the ones I wanted to talk about was that last week, I think it was, there's a pretty well-known embroidery needlework blog called Needle and Thread by Mary Corbett, where she goes through embroidery projects that she does. She talks about different tools to use, techniques. It's really good. You should check it out if you're interested in needlework. But she linked to someone else who is doing a black work sampler stitch along that's free. So she's releasing, I'll show you kind of what it's going to look like. But it's like these blocks. Let me see if I can find. So you have, like, I've numbered them, but you have, like, all these blocks is going to be the entire design, and then each block is going to be a different black work pattern. Black work is typically, like, repeating geometric designs that have lots of lines in them, so this is free, so I can show you the pattern. So, like, this is the first block that she released, so you can tell the designs are somewhat different. I love the idea of this project. This is the kind of thing I really like because it's so open to so many different interpretations. You can do different colors, you can do one color, you can do anything really you want to do. So when I saw that, I was immediately, like, my brain was just like whirring with ideas and things I could do and whatnot. So I saw that, and I should have been studying that day, but I wasn't. So I spent the next few hours making notes, not few hours, but next hour, like, making notes on different ideas I was having and what I could do. And I think I finally figured out what I want to do. I'm going to do a rainbow gradient. So the sampler is this shape with all these blocks. I think I'm going to go from, so the rainbow, so from red to purple, and then a gradient, so from dark to light. And then within that, she has, like, within her blackwork designs, there's these little accent stitches that she's doing in metallic threads. I think I'm going to do in neutral threads, maybe. I haven't decided. I might do metallics, but, or I could do neutral metallics. Anyway, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. So the next step in this process, I've picked out my fabric. I went with a light gray. I haven't seen it yet in person, so I'm not really sure if it's going to work. I ordered it, so I'm going to have to wait and get that and see if it's what I'm looking for. I didn't want to do white because white and rainbow looks very juvenile to me and, like, primary colors, and that's not what I was going for. So, yeah, so I decided not to do white. I didn't want to do, like, a cream color because then the cream is kind of have warm tones, and I want the tone to be more neutral, like a gray. So anyway, so I went with a really light, kind of oyster shell gray. Like I said, I didn't have an actual fabric sample to see in the store, so I don't know how that's going to turn out, so I'm waiting for that. This is going to be a really long-term project, obviously, so it's not something that I'm, like, rushing into. In the meantime, so we don't have all the blackwork designs. We just have, like, one little corner of blocks that she's released. But I should tell you this is bad. Liz Almond is the lady who's doing this. She has the design company Blackwork Journey. So she has lots of gorgeous designs that I haven't had a chance to look through yet. Just because I've been busy, and then also because I'm afraid to, because I'll start new projects. But anyway, and this is free on her website, so if you're interested in this, you should check it out. And then also with these blackwork patterns, you wouldn't even have to do all the sampler. You could just do part of it, and it would still be really, really good. Anyway, so what the next step is, I need to pick the colors. So each block is going to be a different color, but you know, they have to make those transitions from down the rainbow and then from dark to light. So I think I'm going to use DMC just because they have the biggest color selection available, and I don't need any variegated or you know, even slightly variegated threads. This thing is going to be crazy busy anyway, and so we're going to keep it simple. Plus, there's a lot of different colors, and that would be expensive. So I need to get more DMC colors in my stash. And then I'm just going to have to start, I'm going to lay out, I think I'm going to draw, like, on a piece of poster board, like this grid, and then I'm just going to start laying out colors and see how they look and on the fabric and things like that. I don't know when I'm going to have time to do this. I'm crazy. Anyway, so that's a really big project coming up that I'm very excited about. I think I might do a series of posts on my blog about kind of my process through inspiration and planning of this project and moving forward, and then obviously stitching it when I get to that point. But because I'm not doing just what the pattern calls for, and it's a big project and I'm changing it in a big way, it's going to take me a while to kind of lay all that out, which is fine, because this is what I love so much about needlework. You can either, I could have just taken what she did and the materials she used and recreated exactly what she did, which would still be gorgeous, because I mean, she has pictures in here of her work with, it's just blacks and metallic threads with the accent colors, and it's beautiful. But I was inspired to do something else, so I am going to. Anyway, I'm really excited, very, very excited about this. so that's that. What else is going on? I'm going to show you some stash. There's a lot of it in a second. Oh, one thing that's coming up this April, I will be going on my first stitching retreat. I'm very excited. My local needlework store, they do a retreat twice a year. I was not able to go last fall. So I'm going this year. This is going to be my birthday present because my birthday's in April. I'm really excited. I found out who my roommate was going to be this week, and it's someone who I like a lot, so that's good. And I think we're going to get some like small things to work on there, but mostly it'll just bring your stuff and work on it. So that's what I'll be doing. So, new stash. Okay. Lots of things. So one thing, I did get like some new knitting needles. They're not interesting, so they're just more knitting needles. I needed some more project bags because I have all these knitting projects I wanted to start. And then, so at the beginning of last week, I was like, I need to go get some because I'm going to do all these projects, which I ended up not doing, but now I have project bags. So I'm going to show you those. So this one has nothing in it right now, but I love it so much because it's true. It says, I'll show you my stash if you show me yours. I love looking at other people's stash. I know a lot of people, especially people who have a lot of it, are embarrassed by it. They shouldn't be. Lots of stash is great. So that's one. And I don't know who made these because I lost the tags, but I just got them at my needlework store. And that's a kind of a medium-sized bag. And then I needed a bigger bag because I have some bigger shawls and stuff. And so I got this really big bag at my needlework store. They didn't have like a giant selection of patterns and stuff, but I like this one okay. So anyway, so there's the two knitting project bags. Okay. This past week at my stitching store, the owner was having a Super Bowl sale, and it was 25% off everything in the store, which was really great. And then 15% off if you had to order anything. So the fabric that I ordered for that new blackwork piece will be 15% off when I get it, which is still really nice. And so last Saturday, I went to the stitching store for the stitching day last Saturday of the month. And when I was there, sorry, you'll hear bags crinkling. When I was there, I picked up threads for Once Upon a Time, the Frosted Pumpkin project thing, year-long stitch-along they're doing. And I bought all the threads for it and picked up my fabric that had come in because I'd ordered it. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I thought I bought these, but I had looked that morning. Couldn't find them anywhere in my stash. I was like, well, obviously I didn't buy these. And then I went and bought all of them again. That's what these are. This is just DMC. I mean, it's not like it's expensive. Just DMC in a couple, like, weeks dye work threads. So it's not like a huge deal. And then I came home and I was reorganizing my stash and I found another bag of threads that was for Once Upon a Time sampler. So I bought the threads twice. That's okay. Not a big deal. It was a little frustrating. But anyway, it actually worked out because my sister-in-law, Jana, is going to stitch it. And so I just gave them to her. So she didn't have to get them and they went to a good home. So anyway. And so the fabric I'm using... Ooh, I don't know what this is. I have it in my Q-Snap because I was like, I'm going to start this week. And then I didn't, but whatever. Okay, hold on. Let me pull this off. This is Lakeside Linen 32 count Tundra. So it's this really nice, not too pale, but kind of gray-green color. I think it's going to look great. I did like a floss toss with all the threads to see how the colors looked like on it. I just think it's going to look really awesome for the Once Upon a Time sampler. I've been looking in their Facebook group at all the other people stitching it and their progress pictures, and it looks so cute. They've done so far in January. The square was Snow White. It was really cute, Snow White and the dwarves doing laundry. And then this month was just released yesterday for February, and it's like the Frog Prince. There were some debates going on about which fairy tale it was. The Frog Prince or the Princess and the Frog, and I think it's the Frog Prince, which is a slightly different one. I don't know the details, but anyway. So I got those. I hope to start that soon. I don't want that to be something like I signed up for the Stitch Along and I didn't even start it at the same year. So anyway, so I will look into I hopefully we'll get that started next week. Okay, what else did I get? When I was there last week, so when we stitch in our stitching store, the stitching store is kind of long and there's like a table in the middle and we all sit around stitching. So if I'm sitting on one side of the table, when I look up I can only see one side of the store. And the table is slightly closer to one side than the other. So if you sit opposite this side, and you can see all these charts and patterns and models on the wall, and it's very distracting because you want to go look at everything. And if you sit on this side, everything on this side of the room is too far away for you to really see any details, so you don't get distracted as easily, or you don't go pick up things to buy as easily. So I was sitting on that side, not being distracted, and then my the lady who's going to be my roommate said, like, oh, I want to stitch that, and she was pointing something behind me. I turned around and looked, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to stitch that too. And then she said, well, you should buy it. And I was like, no, I shouldn't buy it. I've got lots of things to stitch. I was being good. And then she's like, well, I mean, there's a sale going on. And I was like, that's a good point. And the chart had the threads already in it because they're special threads. And so it's a little more expensive than just the chart by itself. So it was a time when, like, you know, it's good to take advantage of the sale if it's on something that's going to give you a bigger discount. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. And then she said, well, I'll buy it if you buy it. And I was like, okay. So I did. And I got Quaker Diamonds by Rosewood Manor. I'm really loving their patterns. I have two other ones by them. I have not started them, but I will someday. But so anyway, I got this. It's just like so it's got an alphabet sampler, so there's all these letters just kind of randomly around, and I just love the Quaker patterns and the little diamonds. I just think it's really different. I mean, it's sort of traditional in the colors and stuff, but then sort of not. And so this came with the threads, which are Valdani. Are they silk? I'm not sure if they're silk or not. No, they're cotton. Hold on a second. They're cotton, but they're very soft. So these are all the colors that it comes with. Those are coming out a little brighter than they are. They're slightly more muted. Like, this is not anywhere near this bright. But they're gorgeous. They're very slightly variegated, like almost like tonal, and beautiful. And then I was like, well, I might as well get my fabric for it since it's a sale. So I did. I did not use the fabric it called for. I think I've mentioned this before, like on a lot of samplers, I feel like they use a little bit too dark of a fabric, so in colors. But since threads were with it, I'm not changing the threads, so I got a much brighter fabric than it called for. This is, I think I mentioned before, this is now my go-to neutral for stitching, usually, except for that black work piece, because this is a little too warm for that. Anyway, this is, I think this is like Sun Linens. It's 30 count coconut macaroon, and it's gorgeous. And the linen is so nice. It's soft, but not too soft, like not too thin and flimsy, but soft enough that it's nice to stitch on. Anyway, so I got that. So I'm all ready to go on this. No idea when I'm going to start it. No plans at all to start anytime soon. But I have it. It's ready to go. So, that was one thing. So I got that. I also got, because it came in and I had already ordered it, another Stitch Along that I signed up for. I don't know if anyone knows of, I think if you're on the cross stitch forum at all, people will post on this sometimes, but there's a site called, oh gosh, I don't know how to say this, I think it's French, Papillon, I don't know, I think it means butterfly in French, I'm not really sure, but they have a lot of really traditional pieces, but they're doing this really like 2-year-long stitch along. It's called Around the World in 80 Stitches, and it's this thing that's released in parts, and it's floral in nature. It's all really abstract though, and each part has like a different kind of specialty stitch or counted embroidery stitch. So not all cross stitch, although they do have a version that is all cross stitch, but that's not what I'll be doing. But this is another one like the black work piece where the the colors are really open to interpretation. The layout and the design and all that is pretty set, but the colors, you can do just about anything you could ever think of. I like lots of colors and bright colors, if you haven't been able to tell. And so this was a good chance for me to kind of do that. So I'm going to go with a floral theme, stick with a floral theme. And you had to pick like 3 kinds of green and 8 flower colors, and then like a sort of a neutral. They suggested white. I didn't want to do white for some hard hanger things, and then like a metallic color and 2 kinds of beads. So anyway, this is gonna be a big project. I'm gonna do this as a gift for my mom. She knows about it already because I was talking to her about what kind of color she would like. And so I'm gonna do this for my mom. I'm an only child, and so I'm expecting to get this back someday. So I'm kind of also making it for myself. Anyway, so I wanted this to be a really nice piece, and so I did this in silks. So this was like a nice project. I mean, silks are not cheap at all, and I needed a lot. I needed like 2 skeins of all the flowers and several skeins of the greens. So anyway, so I had to back order some when I picked them out last fall, and they finally came in. So now I have all of them. So now I can start this one too. When I'm going to start it, again, no idea, but I have it. It's ready to go. And this is also on coconut macaroon. So here's all of my flower colors. Lots of colors. So pretty. So I've got like 2 blues and like this rosy pink and a red, and then a dark purple and a bright yellow and a pale pink and an orange. Again, these are coming out much brighter, a little bit brighter than they are, more vibrant. They're still very vibrant though. And then my greens, you have to have a dark. So I have this beanstalk color. Oh, no, it's not beanstalk. Enchanted color. I was waiting. This one especially, I needed a lot of, and so I was waiting on it to come in. That's a really dark green, but it's kind of showing up black. Oh, there it is, kind of dark green. And then these 2 colors. So that, and then for my neutral color, I picked this. It's called Cabbage Patch. It's like this really pale celery green. Just because I thought it would be so pretty. It would still show up on the coconut macaroon, but still be soft like a white would. So that's, I'm so excited about this project because the silks are ridiculously lovely to work with. And the project itself is going to be so much fun because it's so many new techniques and stitches, and I've seen, like, they're like on part 16 or 17, and there's 24 parts, so it'll definitely be over with by the time I get done, or maybe before, get it going. But, oh, and then my beads, I kind of have a pale and not so pale copper, and then a copper metallic. So I thought that was going to be interesting. So that's for that. But I've seen other people's work on it, and it's gorgeous. It's going to be really pretty and just different and neat, which I like. I like my things to be unique. Alright, what else did I get? Oh, one interesting thing I got. I've been wanting one of these for a while. So when I stitch at home, if you stitch for any amount of time, you've lost the needle somewhere. And we have carpet, so it's not always easy to find them. And so instead of having to dig around in the carpet for them or on the couch, I got a needle picker-upper. This is a telescoping magnet on the end. It's very strong. I think it can hold up to like 10 pounds. So when it passes over a needle, it like immediately sucks it up. Like it doesn't have to be very close to it. Sorry, almost dropped it. So anyway, so I've been wanting one of these, so I got it when the sale was going on. So that's one thing. What else did I get? Oh, and so yesterday, this was the last day of the sale, my sister-in-law was in town, and she wanted to go get some things, fabric and stuff, and look at the sale. Jana stitches, she just started stitching after I did, because I kind of showed her what was going on with it and stuff. And so she's doesn't do it as much as I do, because she does other stuff too, but she is sort of getting back into it a little bit, and so she was going to look at fabric and new charts and stuff. So, and she doesn't live in town, so she doesn't get to go that often. So, I'm glad she got to go during this day. Hi, Jana. Anyway, so when I was there, I brought stuff for another stitch along. I don't know why I'm signing up for all these stitch alongs. I have no intention of keeping up with them at all, but so be it. So, someone on the cross stitch forum mentioned that the Alessandra Adelaide Facebook group is doing a mystery stitch along. So a mystery stitch along is when you don't know what it's going to look like. You just get one part of it at a time, and that's how you find out what it looks like. It's Halloween themed. I don't have a Halloween project going, and I would like to have one. And it was going to be like a Halloween town. They gave you the silhouette of it, and it looks like this like hill of houses outlined, and it just looked really neat. So I decided to go ahead and get my threads and fabric for that during the sale. They haven't released the first chart yet, so I'm actually ahead on this one. But they've released the thread list and the fabric size, that you would need. So anyway, so I pulled all the thread. The threads are all DMC that are called for. Something about some of the colors, like, just I didn't like quite the hue or the shade of the color. Like, it was a little too. I don't know. I just didn't like it. So I took those DMC colors and I went and found similar, like over-dyed threads that I liked the colors. I like them better. So here's what I ended up with. All of these colors. So they're all very close to what they are, but there might just be like one slight difference in the hue or something that made me like it a little bit more. And like some of them I couldn't really find a good match for, so I just kept the DMC. But anyway, and then what I'm really excited about is my fabric. So here's my fabric. This is the first time I've ever done like a variegated dyed fabric. Most of what I've done so far, they weren't appropriate because they're really busy. So you have to be kind of careful what you put on them. But I thought, like, for this, since it's like the Halloween town, and I knew I wanted a little bit darker gray because it looked good with all the colors. And then since the town, I was like, well, it's gonna be like the sky behind it. And so anyway, so I thought this looked really good. So this is a Picture This Plus 32 count. And I have no idea what color it is because she has an abbreviation there, but I can try to find that out. Anyway, it says MIR, but that's probably an abbreviation for something. Anyway, I like it a lot. It's not quite as blue as it's showing up there, but it has got some blue in it. So I'm really excited for that one. I'm kind of curious to see what it's going to look like. I like some of Alessandra Adelaide stuff. Not all of it is quite my taste, which is fine, but I think this one's going to be really cool. So, what else? I think that's everything stitching-wise. Oh, yeah, that is all my stitching stash. I did get one more thing knitting-wise. So since I started the Portuguese knitting, I had to decide if I wanted to loop the yarn around my neck, which I don't, because my hair gets caught in it, and then it's rubbing around your neck, and it's just annoying. So I didn't do that. Or you can loop it through a pin on your shirt. I have a pin, but it puts holes in my shirt, obviously, when I pin it in my shirt, so I didn't really want to do that either. And then the other option is to use like a necklace with a hook on it, or like a chain that goes around your neck with a hook on it to pass the yarn through. So that's what I landed on because it's easy to put it on, take it off. It doesn't pull on my shirt or my neck or anything. So anyway, so what I did is I went on to Andrea Wong has an Etsy shop. Again, this is the lady who's kind of the main advocate for the Portuguese knitting style, and she teaches it and does things like that. And she sells these necklaces that are made. They're really lightweight, so that's nice. So they're not going to pull on your yarn a lot. Again, letting you decide how to tension the yarn. And she also has some that are made, because you can do two-stranded, like, color work knitting this way, too. But you just have to have two loops for the different yarns to go through. And so I got a necklace that had two loops, because I will probably want to do that someday. And in the meantime, I just use one. So it's just on a black cord that has, like, an adjustable thing. So once I put it around my neck, I can adjust it to the height I need it to knit comfortably. And it got here really fast. And I was really excited. So now I'm all set to go. on that. I will probably see if I can make myself some more of these. Maybe not necessarily exactly like this, but some sort of necklace where I can have a hook on it, because it'd be nice to have these in like all my project bags, so I don't have to keep remembering to move it from one to the other, because one day I'm going to forget and be mad that I can't knit the way I want to. Alright, so that's all my stash. So that's stitching and knitting, so let's talk about books. So, oh, shoot. Anyway, I finished a book. I finished that, what was I reading? Oh, goodness. This Was Adonis Murdered, I think is the name, by Sarah Caldwell. It was really good. I loved it. It was a tax attorney detective story. It was so funny. I laughed, like, out loud, like, probably every other page. Great if you like British humor. Great if you like cozy mysteries that aren't too serious but still have a great mystery. I was not at all expecting what the solution was to the mystery. I don't like really try to solve mysteries as I'm reading them, because that's not really why I want to read them. But you know, I was in whatever the mystery was. I was not expecting it, but it made perfect sense, which is, in my opinion, the mark of a really good mystery. So I really recommend that one. I continued reading The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This was a little slow for me. I just yesterday or the day before reached a spot where you're like, oh, that's why this book is interesting. So hope, you know, not that I wasn't enjoying it before, it was just a little slow, which a lot of books are in the beginning. So I'm like now, let's see, like 175 pages in, and I think it's going to get even more interesting from now on. So there's that. What else am I reading? I started this book, Miss Bunkle's book. This is another British book. It's was recommended to me from someone at my local bookstore because I liked Cold Comfort Farm by Stella Gibson. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It's set in like the 30s, 40s, somewhere in there, in a small British town, and it's kind of like about small town life and all the people there. This is somewhat similar, but the main character is a sort of a well-off lady who's a spinster, sort of middle-aged single lady in a time where that was still somewhat uncommon. Who has been well off but is kind of running out of money now, and so she writes a book about people in her town, and interesting things start happening. I haven't got very far into it yet, but yeah, I'm on chapter 2. But it's really cute, nice, and funny so far. What was I already saying? Since The Secret History is kind of serious and somewhat depressing sometimes, I kind of need something to balance that out, so this will do nicely for that. I also start books like I start projects. So I started reading a nonfiction book, which I don't read a whole lot of nonfiction, but good nonfiction is good. So I started Bill Bryson's At Home. He wrote a short history of nearly everything, which was pretty popular and still is, but came out several years ago, like over a decade ago. Anyway, this is about, let's see, it says he takes us on a room-by-room tour through his own house, using each room as a jumping-off point into the vast history behind the domestic artifacts we take for granted. So basically he's just giving like a history of houses and things in houses, but also touching on lots of interesting aspects of history that are connected that way. It's sprawling. He talks about ancient history and recent history and everything in between, and kind of centered on British history, but not exactly. And it's just so interesting, and there's so many facts crammed in here, but he does it in a way that doesn't feel like it's crammed in there. It feels like you're sitting down talking with him, and he's just telling you the story that keeps connecting into new things, and it's fascinating. This kept me up late at night, which is just about amazing for nonfiction. Anyways, I'm really, really enjoying this, and I can't wait to read more of it, and I highly recommend it. And that's it. I think that's all I'm reading right now. And then I'm also still listening to the Enchantress, what is that called? Yeah, the Enchantress Returns, which is the Land of Stories. What is that called? Series by Chris Colfer. I think I talked about that last time. I've gotten a little bit more used to his voice. When he does, every once in a while he'll do a character's voice, and like, so if they're in like the fairy tale land or whatever, he just sometimes does like a sort of British accent, and I don't know how I feel about that. It can sort of rub me the wrong way sometimes, but most of the time it's fine. So I'm listening to that. So far, it's perfectly good. Not anything spectacular, but entertaining. And I also picked up some new books. I don't buy books. I used to buy books a lot. One might say too much if one is my husband. I kind of stopped doing that because we have a lot of books now. But I recently got rid of a lot of books, and this week I had to go to the chiropractor, and I got there too early and they weren't open yet, so I went to the bookstore next door. And then I felt bad because it was the middle of the day and I was the only one in there, and I didn't want to not just go in and look around and waste time and not buy anything. At least that's what I told myself. So I picked up 2 new books, which is at a used bookstore, so they were not very expensive. So I got Changeless, which is the second book in the, what is this called? The Parasol Protectorate. This is pure sugar mind candy. These books are ridiculously silly, but they're so entertaining. It's almost like Stephanie Plum, like, novels. Like, it's something that my mind can read and spend no energy consuming, which is sometimes what I need if I've studied for a long time or I'm stressed out about other things. So, the first one of these I didn't buy. I probably won't buy any more in the series. I'll get them from the library, but I just picked it up because it was there. It's not like something I want in my collection for all time. Something I do want in my collection that I also want to read is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. I have not actually read well, that's not true. Okay. I've read Good Omens, which Neil Gaiman did with Terry Pratchett. It's so funny, and brilliantly written. And then I've also read Stardust, which was great, and I loved it, which was also by Neil Gaiman. And I haven't really read much else. We have American Gods, but I haven't read it, but my husband has. Oh, I read Coraline. Yes. That was also good. That's a children's book he wrote. That was very, very good. But this is a book I've been wanting to read by him. Not all of his stuff I want to read, because some of it's kind of scary, and I don't like scary things. But this sounds something like I would really like. It's like a normal person finds out about this underground part of London that's filled with magical-y things, I think. And so that's what that's about. Anyways, I don't know when I'll read that, but I will someday. What else have I done? I think that's everything. That was a pretty full podcast. So lots of new things coming up on the horizon. Basically nothing that I've said I plan on doing, I did from last time. That happens a lot, though, with crafting and stitching. You know, things change and what you want to do and your ideas change, so that's fine. So plans for the next couple weeks, lots of studying. I need to really get a big chunk of studying done in the next couple weeks, so I'm on track for my test in March. And I will try to finish the back stitching on the nursery rhymes piece, so I can kind of be halfway done with that and move on to something else. I want to start the Once Upon a Time sampler and work some more of my band sampler and my music piece. So the things I have going right now, and I don't know if I'll start any of those other pieces yet, but they'll be there should I want to. I don't know if I'll be able to get started planning that new Blackwork sampler. That might have to wait a while, sadly. I really, really want to, but I don't think I have time right now. And then knitting, I just hope I have more time to knit. I don't have that much time to knit right now. Knitting's been going with me to places that it's harder to take stitching, like small group or something, so, or work. Well, I can usually stitch on my lunch break, but anyways, I'm going to try to make some more definite plans with my knitting projects. I need to get those 2 scarves done. I did work a little bit more on my husband's scarf, but not a whole lot more. So I'll be working on those. And then we'll see where we get to. Hopefully, maybe I'll get to start a new knitting project soon. I have been not keeping up with my own knitting, but I've been following the other people's progress on the Follow Your Arrow Mystery Cow by Isolde Teague. I still haven't made any more progress on mine than I showed last time. Because I was doing all the stuff, figuring out how I wanted to knit and whatnot, and I just haven't picked it up. That's something that I kind of have to sit down and think about, because I'm still really new to anything that's not just regular knit and purl. So anyway, but hopefully I'll get to start on that again sometime soon. So alright, I think that's everything. Thanks for watching. This was a pretty long episode, so if you made it to the end, thank you. And don't forget, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below in the YouTube comment section, or you can also comment on my blog if you want to get in touch with me. The blog is a great way to do that, or you can find me on the Cross Stitch Former Ravelry as Book Knurd, and I think that's it. So anyway, have a great week. Stay warm if you're in the United States and it's freezing like it is here right now, and have fun stitching and knitting. Thanks, bye.